project. We're gonna create a new project. In here, new project. I am going to explain you how to make the routine, the main routine and the subroutine, and also how to create the part of the HMI. Because the thing that I am going to be checking is the HMI in the simulation, right? So let's select here the project standard, and remember this one has to be saved as a carpet. So I'm gonna save it in this place, and it's going to be the name routine and subroutine, right? It's subroutine. Accept. Remember, standard project, the name of the project that you wanted to choose, and the carpet that you're gonna say this specific practice, right? So I choose the option accept. In here we're gonna select which option, the one that says CODESYS control win multiplied by 64 and is smart software solutions, right? And in this case, as you can see, you have a lot of options to program. In this unit, I am going to ask you to program in ladder. In the following units, you can use a different one. Okay, so everything is gonna be saved or programmed in ladder. So we're gonna select ladder contact and the option accept. Yes, standard project and in ladder. Remember, in the following units, we're gonna see how to program in GraphSet and in structured test. So in this part, this one, as you can see, the name of this program is PLC PRG. So I'm gonna select here, right click and go to properties. In this part, this one, I am going to change to main or the principal routine. So I'm gonna call it principal and routine, right? Right. So this is gonna be the main routine from all the program, right? So I can add or I can change the name, but you have to take care in this point, guys. Once that you change the name, you're gonna select the option accept, and the program is gonna ask you, ha renombrado el objeto PLC. Do you want to move the following things? You're gonna select the option yes. And here is the thing, the name of the routine and the name of the program and also the main task is gonna be changed to the name that we added in this part. So all of them are going to be with the same name. So we're gonna select accept, right? So as you can see, the name of the routine is now principal routine, and actually in the main task that I have here, I added or the program added automatically the name that I had in the beginning. If I didn't make this change, the program is not recognize which is the main routine because I changed the name, right? And also here, if I double click over the principal routine, this one has to be the same name like this one. Because if there is some differences, the program is not going to recognize that part, right? Questions? No? Okay, now this is the principal. I am going to add the menu. I'm gonna make a different structures, not the same that you have to develop from the homework, and is in the way to explain you how to call a specific variable from another routine, right? So here from application, right click and select the option add an object. And this part you have to select the option POW. In this case, this one is gonna be the small box routine. So I'm gonna place R from routine and small box. And of course, I have to select the language to program this specific subroutine. In this case, it's gonna be later. So I select the name and the language and I select the option add. And as you can see now, I have a routine that is called a small box right here in this part. So what is the next thing? I'm gonna add the routine from the big box, right? So go to application, right click, add an object, and add a poll. And this one is gonna be the routine for the extra box. So I selected the small and the bigger one boxes, right? The program is going to be also in ladder in this case. So I'm gonna select the option accept, right? Questions up to this point, Dejo? No? Everything is clear? So instead of having to name it or to call it the routines that I added in the principal, the thing that I am going to do is to take this one with a left click and to move it into the main task. This one I am going to move to the main task. And the other one I am going to move from this part to the main task. And as you can see now, the three routines that I add to my program actually are named as a main task, the three of them. So as you are going to see here, the principal routine, the routine from a small box, and the routine from the extra box, right? And these ones appear here as a main task without, if I do not make this movement, I have to go to the principal routine and call it, right? In this case, I don't have to call it in the program, right? Okay, so you can add it in this way. Check it that you have in the main task the three routines that we added, right? Okay, now let's add the final part. Let's go to application, add an object, and we're gonna add the ones that says lista de variables globales. From here, application, right click, add an object, and lista de variables globales. And this one, I'm gonna let this name that the program add, GBL, right? And I am going to add the option add. And as you can see now, I have the list of global variables, the principal routine, the routine from the small box, and the routine from the extra box, right? Questions up to this point? Everything is clear? So I am going to create a different routine from the one that you are going to program, but I'm going to show you how to combine different routines into one. So in the principal routine, I am going to add the first step from the ladder, that is the start. So here I am going to go to select an open contact. And do you remember how to add the variables? Bless you. I can add it manually, or I can name it here, for example, botón de arranque. And I have to place a click outside of that part. And here, this option is gonna be the one that I'm gonna be changing in this part a little bit. You can declare this variable as a local variable or as a global one, right? So in this part, this one is gonna be local because I don't have to use as a global variable. So this one is gonna be a variable, is going to be in which object. I can select here the object that I am working on. That is the principal routine. And here is gonna be the name BA, and the type of data is gonna be Boolean, and that's it. Okay, now I get the option accept, and I have to add the botón de paro. So I go to call another contact. Let me make it smaller because in that way it's better. So I'm gonna place BP or botón de paro, and actually again I have to declare the variable. The name is gonna be bar. The visibility is gonna be on bar. The name is gonna be BP, and the type of data is gonna be Boolean, right? So once that I add, I select the option accept. Finally, I am going to add the coil. So I go to select the coil, and the name of this coil I can add it manually by copy and paste this option. And this one is gonna be start. Remember that to declare variables you have to use these dos puntos y seguido, right? And the type of data that you're gonna be using. So in this case, the start option is a boolean because I am using as a boolean, right? If I change something in the variable in the program, I can return here to change, for example, to integer, to change the type of data. But in this case, there is not going to be the option. And that one is gonna be the start. Once that you add, as you can see, if I had a problem, it appears in the same as Word with a red line, tells you that there is a problem, right? So what else? I have to add the enclave, so I'm gonna select this part of the program and select the option add a contact in parallel. And what is the name of this contact, guys? Start. Start. And that's it. For the first part, that is the only thing that I have to do, right? Questions? Nope. Okay. Let's go to this part of the program and right click and select the option insertar red por debajo. And you're gonna see this option. Or you can select this one and copy and paste. And that's it, right? Because we're gonna be repeating the interaction, so we can make that option. So I have to confirm that I am going to start in the step 1. I am going to follow the first, I think it was 2 stages to select the side of the box. So the first step is to start the conveyor 1. Do you remember that I have to check if there is a box? And once that I detect a box, I start the conveyor 1, right? So in this part, I have to see that the system is start and there is a sensor here. I have to add a sensor. I'm gonna select the S sensor box, for example. I have to declare as a boolean and accept. So the first state, I'm gonna call it state 1. And also I am going to name it with the output that I am going to turn on. In this case, it's gonna be C1. So, okay, that is something interesting. If I make an space and I try to declare a variable, the system does not recognize the thing after the space. So I have to use like, let me see if it accepts this concept, and that's it. In this part, as you can see, I use this configuration. Instead of adding an space, I add a guion to share that is the same variable, right? So the state 1 is gonna be activating which part? The conveyor belt 1, right? So if you don't want to make this process, you are able to add instead of the steps, the outputs that you're gonna activate based in your automata, right? So once that I start the system and there is a box, I am going to move this one. And what is the thing that I have to add here, guys? The next step, that is gonna be step 2, right? I have to declare and I don't know what is the thing that I am going to activate, right? So I can let them in that part. So this one is gonna be called as the name of the coil to make like the enclave, right? So this one is gonna be state C1, right? Questions until this point, guys? Everything is clear? Okay, let's make, instead of having to add all the parts again, I am going to only copy and paste this option. So once that I detect that there is a box inside of my machine, what was the next state? Activate the size of the box, right? So in this part, instead of having the start, I have to see that the last state, well, actually here I have to add another contact, and here I have to confirm that the system is actually started. I have to see if the last stage is accomplished and the size of the box. In this case, I'm gonna change this one with the letter C or Z to check what is the size of the box, right? And this one is gonna be Boolean. In this part, this is the only thing, pleasure. This is the only thing that I'm gonna let until this point in the principal routine. Because once that I select the size of the box, I have to go to the routine from the small box and the big box, right? So in this part, there is gonna be the interesting thing or the funny part for you. Let's say that this one, come on, it's funny, the program. I'm gonna add the state trip. In this case, I add it only in this way. So this one is gonna be which state? The state 2. And here I have to place the state 2 to make the enclave, right? But this is the thing, this one, this state, I have to send the information that a small box was detected. So how can I make that? So instead of having to declare the state 2 as a local variable, I am going to declare this one as a global variable. So I'm going to move to the global variable list, and in here I am going to copy and paste 2 points, bool, and punto y coma. With this option, guys, I declare the state 2 as a global variable, right? So I have to compile to see if there is no mistakes. And as you can see, this option appears in blue or in a bold letter in some cases. But here there is a problem. This one I am going to erase from this part because I don't need it the state 2 as a local variable. I need it as a global variable. So in this case, there are two ways to call it a global variable. The first one is to select this name, right click, left click, sorry, over these 3 points and go to search into the application, the global list, and select the option that I am looking for. That is this one. Once that I add this part, I select the option accept. right? Yes, ST2, for example, from which part? From the global? Okay, I move to the global part and I declare this part. Let me make a zoom. This in the global list, I declare the state 2 without nothing. Only I place the name state 2 and this one is equal to a boolean and that's it. From this part, I actually compile. Why? Because the system has to recognize the variables that I declare in the global variable list, right? That is why I compile before call it from the principal routine, right? So, is it clear? Okay, now let's move to the principal routine. And in this part, this one is the one that I call it, that I want to call it from the global variables. So I select this option. Yes, it was in this one. So I select this option, left click over these 3 points, and I have to go to the application and select the option that appears here. I am into variables and here, right, left click over the plus option from the application and left click over this option. And you have to select this one that it says state 2. But it's a variable that I declare as a global, not as a local, right? Once that I select, I go to accept, and that's it. This is the hardest way to go to search for a specific global variable. The easy way is to write in front of this variable, for example, GBL points, and as you can see, the system show me from the variables that I declare, the ones that I am looking for. So in this case, you are going to make only double click and that's it. So there are two ways to find the global variable. The one that I showed you at the beginning is the hardest one because you have to go to search, to find, and etc. And in this case, you only place this option GBL, that is the name of the carpet, GBL. So the program is gonna go to find that carpet and find the variable that we are going to use, right? So, but in this thing, I am going to change this variable to a small, and I am going to raise the ones that I add as a size of a box because I have to configure the system. From here, there are going to be several options, right? The first option is that I move to the state I am going to move from state 1 to the state 2. And there are, in this case, there is going to be two options, the small box and the big box. In your cases, there are going to be four options, the small, medium, big, and extra big box, right? So the only thing that I have to make is this one, I am going to copy and paste. And the second one is going to be the routine that I am going to call, that is the XX box or the extra big box. I declare as a boolean, and in this case, as you can see, this option doesn't match with this option. There are different names, so I have to add it with the correct names. In this one, I am going to erase this one for a moment because I have to explain you something. Did you remember that in the state machine we follow the numbers from each state? For example, when we finish the small box classification, we move it to the 0. And if we select the medium box, there is a continuum from the state machine. If we left the last state in, 6, the next one is 7, 8, 9, 10. And the other one is 11, 12, 30, etc. Right? So I'm gonna try to follow that specific configuration by following into the subroutine the continuum from state 2. So it's gonna be 3, 4, 5, or 6, whatever. Then I have to return to see the Xbox correspond to the state, let's say 7. So I'm gonna start from the 7, 8, 9, 10, right? I'm gonna make it to show you how it works. So this one, until this point, there is any question? No. Ese set también lo cambiamos para global. This one. El de arriba. No, this is only the state one. This one. You have to declare as a. In the second line. Okay. Yes. Yeah. It has to be the global because you didn't declare as state 2 as a local variable. So it has to be global, right? So, questions? Another part that I am missing? I think no. Okay. So now we're gonna move to the small box, right? To the routine from a small box. And in this place, I am going to start from the state that I live from the principal routine. That is gonna be state 2 as a global variable. So in here, I'm gonna add a contact. This one is going to be the state 2 as a global variable. That is the way to change from the principal to the subroutine, right? And in this case, I'm not going to follow the real sensor that I add in the programming part. I am only going to program a routine and then go back to the principal to show you how to make it, right? So in this part, I am going to add a sensor. In this case, I am going to add a sensor called sensor1 that is gonna be a boolean. And in this case, I am going to add a coil that is gonna be the following the states that I am following since the principal routine. In this case, it's gonna be state 3. And this one has to be declared as a local variable. So as you can see, the reason to declare a global variable is from the principal routine, I am activating one specific stage, and that stage I declare as a global variable. And from this routine, I am watching that specific value, right? So in this case, I am going to create the enclave, and this one has to be inside, right? And what is the step that is gonna break this specific configuration? The step 4 as a local variable again. So this one is a local variable, this one is a local variable, right? So I am going to copy and paste this one, and the thing that I have to check is this state. The last state is accomplished, state 3, and there is a new sensor, the sensor 2. I am only adding names. And this one is gonna be the 5, the state 5, right? And this one is gonna be state 4. This one I have to change it actually, right? So as you can see, I am reading the principal routine input. Then if the sensor, in this part guys, I actually start the subroutine from a small box, right? So in this part, I am moving from the state 2 from the principal to the state 3 in the subroutine, right? So I have to configure the last state is accomplished, the sensor that I am waiting in the actual state, and I have to consider the next state, right? And make the enclave from the present state, right? So the following, as you can see, I change the variable as a local one. So the only thing that I am waiting from the principal is to see you give me the calling from the small box routine, right? So let's make another step to add three sensors. Control C, Control V. And this one is gonna be state 4. That is the last state. The actual sensor is sensor 3. And here is the thing. I have to return to the state 0 or the auxiliary. In this case, I am going to declare this part or this state is going to be broken by the state 0 that is going to be in the principal routine. So this one I am going to declare as a state 0, but in this case, I am going to declare as a global variable instead of declaring as a local variable. And it's going to be in the GBL application. And also it's gonna be a boolean, the st0 and accept. So the way to add the correct variable is by writing here gbl point st or state 0, right? So the funny thing is I am going to go back to the principal routine once that I finish this routine. So imagine that you have here like, I don't know, 5 states. The final one has to be broken with the principal state 0, right? Is it clear? Okay. And this one is gonna be the state 5. This one is gonna be sensor 3. This one is gonna be state 5, right? But there is another thing. How can I see in the principal routine that I actually achieve the state 5?
With the global state 0?
Right. No, with the global state 5. So I have to declare this one as a global to be able from the principal to read this variable, right? Maybe it's a little bit confused, but I'm gonna show you in the simulation. So this one I have to declare, instead of declaring as a local variable, I am going to declare as a global variable. So I can move here the state 5 and it's gonna be bool. And that's it. With that part, I go to the small box and this one I place the GBL point state 5, right? And also I have to change the variables named as a local variable because it has to be combined the global variable with global variable references, right? Questions until this point? Nope. Okay. Did you finish until this point? Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're gonna move to the principal routine. In this part, I recommend you to add, you can add at the beginning, but I also added at the end of the program. In this case, I am going to add a contact from the last state from the small box subroutine. So this one is gonna be GBL point state 5. So if this one is activated, what is the state that I have to turn on? State 0. So in this case, it's gonna be global or local. Global, because once that this coil is activated, I have to unactivate from the subroutine. So this one is gonna be GBL point state 0, right? And I have to here declare the parallel contact from GBL point st0. right? Questions until this point? Okay. Ready, guys? Okay, 1 minute. Mhm. Uh, and for example, once that we are in the state zero, what is the state that is going to broke this condition? Again, I am in the state zero. What is the next state? Nope. To break this condition. From the automata that we draw at the beginning, I have to pass from the state zero to the what state? Nope. The one, right? So what is the condition that is going to broke this condition? The state one. And I declare that one as a which type? As a local variable. It's because I established as a C1, sorry. To refer that I am activating the stage, the conveyor belt one, right? So this condition, once that I achieve the state 5 in the subroutine, uh, this state 0 is gonna unactivate that specific state from that subroutine. So the action that I made in this some steps, guys, is to start the sequence as a principal. Depending of the size of the box, I move it to call to a subroutine. Once that I finish that subroutine, I return to the principal, right? Is it clear? So there is gonna be the funny part. Well, almost. I'm gonna explain the second part, then you're gonna make the funniest part. So what is the next step that I have to activate if the sensor detect that is an XX box? If the sensor, I have returned to this part. So if I finish the subroutine, the small box, I return to the state 1. I activate again the conveyor belt 1. But now the sensor detects an XX box or extra big box. What is the next state that I have to consider? The sixth one, right? So here, what was the last state that I have in my subroutine? The small box, the 5 one. So I continue with the numbers. So in this case, it's gonna be state 6. And I have to declare this part as a global. It's gonna be a boolean, it's gonna be accepted. And in this part, the only thing that I am missing is the GBL point is state 6, right? Okay, now what is the next thing that I have to do? Once that the system detects that in this case is a extra big box, the subroutine. So I'm gonna move to the subroutine that is called extra big box. And in this place, I am going to start with the last state that I declare in the principal. That is gonna be GBL point state 6, right? And as you can see, the interesting thing is that here I can declare exactly the same names that I add from the routine that is called small box. So in this case, I'm gonna add exactly the same names. Sensor 1, and as you can see in this part, if I declare as a global variable again, the system is gonna tell me you have a problem. But if I declare as a local variable, the system is gonna run normally, right? And that's it. What is the next state that I have to activate? From 6, I am going to pass to 7. So I add a coil, and in this case, it's gonna be a local variable, state 7, local variable accept. And I have to add here the parallel contact with the name state 7. And this one, remember, has to be inside because it's a condition that I am waiting once that I detect that is a extra big box, right? So the condition, remember, I have to place a condition that broke or open the circuit to do not continue in this state. What is the condition? A close contact from state, sorry, from state 8. That is the following state, right? So I declare again as a local variable, and that's it, right? So again, I am now in the subroutine called extra big box. So how many stages do I place in the first one?
Five.
1, 2, and 3, right? From the small box. I am going to repeat exactly the same. So I'm gonna copy, Control C, Control V, and Control V, right? So in the second part, the last state is state 7. The sensor in this case is gonna be sensor 2 that I have to declare as a local variable. And the next state in this case is gonna be state 9, but it's the one that I'm gonna be declaring as a global. So in this part, there is gonna be state 9, but in this case, it's gonna be a global variable. State 9, accept. And here, the only thing that I have to do is GBL point and double click over this option, right? And this one, what is the name of this state? Of course, is the 8. And also, I have to change this one as a 8. And I move forward to the last part, that is the last state that I am activating, that is the state 8. Here I'm gonna copy and paste sensor 3.
Stay zero.
This one is gonna be, and here as you can see, I am going to call again the global variable state 0. So this one is GBL point st0. So as you can see, do you remember the last part of the automata that we create? All the reset part from the routines are the same, the state 0. So in this part, there is gonna be st or state 9. That is a global variable. And this one has to be with the same name. That's it. So I know that in your cases, you're gonna have like more stages into the subroutines, but it's gonna be the same procedure. Questions? No? Okay. Now, did you finish this part?
No.
I'm gonna give you like 1 minute. maybe in that way to see the contacts. Ready, guys?
No. No, pero espera, allá también. Ah,
But is it no until the next week? It's until the next week. Uh, to this Friday?
Yes.
Is to help you to have like very long week. Yeah. Let me think about it. Okay. Let me show you because we are missing the HMI. That is the part that you're gonna send me in the evidence. So once I finish this part, I'm going to return to the principal part. And here I have to add, here I am going to add a parallel contact. In this case, what is gonna be the name of this contact? GBL point state 9. So as you can see, I select the first state, move it to the subroutine, I complete the subroutine, and go back to the principal one, right? So in this part, guys, sorry, what is the thing that is going to unactivate this state in the case of the first routine? Or what is the thing that I have to place here? For example, this one that I place here, is it completed or not? Or what do I have to add here? State 0, why? 7, 8, 5, 2, 4.
maybe six,
State, which one? What is the state that follow from this one? What is, or better say, what is the state 3 here in the principal?
solo tenemos en la de
Right. So we have to go to the Smallbox routine and see that this one is to unactivate the last part, but I declare as a local variable. So as you can see, there is a mistake here because I have to go and check this option as a global variable. So I'm gonna go to global variable and declare the state tree, 2 points, bool, and that's it. Now, in the Smallbox routine, instead of having a local variable called state3, I am going to erase this part and call it as a global variable. GBL point st3, and this one is also going to be GBL point st3. And here I have to change it, this one into this place, right? In the principal. So I'm gonna move to the principal and I have to change which name, this one, as a global, only because I am changing between two subroutines. The only thing that I made is the state tree from the subroutine of Smallbox. I declare it as a global variable. And I changed all the names as a global, of course. This one, the coil, the enclave, and the next state, right? So in the principal routine, I have to declare this one as a global variable too. So I am going to make exactly the same activity from which part? Xbox. So this one, but here I have to see what is the next state, the state 7. So I'm gonna go to global variable and declare the state 7. Go back to the routine and this one is gonna be 7. Come on. I'm waiting. From the subroutine of a small box, the ones that you're gonna change is the state 3. From the routine from extra big box, you're gonna change the state 7. Let me show you. In this part, I didn't change it actually. I am going to change this one GBL point state 7. And this one I am going to copy and paste into the ones that is corresponding. And of course, erase this variable that I am not going to use anymore. Right? Mhm. Let me show you in this part. The st3 is actually as a global variable. In this case, because I am going to use the state2 as a global variable, I declare here in the enclave and in the coil. Is going to be the same. In this part, I add the state 6 and here in the coil and also in this contact. Yes, you can erase from, let me see if I have it yet. No, I don't have it. State, okay, the state 3. This is only to optimize the variables that I have as a local variable. I can leave it, declare it in this space, but I'm not going to use it, so I can erase them. Okay, everything is clear until this point? In which part? There is the option of the zoom, but it's not like working very well. It's only to show you how to interact between the principal and the subroutine. And you have to make it with the program that I asked you to develop. No, you're gonna make four. The in this case, yes. In your cases, you're gonna have like more stages, I think so. Mhm. Too easy, right, guys? Nope. Let me pause the video to see. Now it's recording, I think so. Let me see how it works. Okay, until this point, all the things that I made is state one or start the system, then move to the state one that is moving the conveyor belt one. Then I have to see if there is a box and what is the size of that specific box. I only programming for two type of boxes. The thing here, guys, is that I have to block if this one is happening, this one cannot check or call the subroutine. So how can I make that? The easy way is to use the contact here in parallel to the state tree, and this one in parallel to the state uh, 2. No, we have to cross these two, because imagine that you are classifying the small box and there is a box in the input. The system is going to start again, right? So I have to block this part if some of the things are running, right? How can I make that? By combining this one, this coil, I'm gonna add a contact in here, and it's gonna be a closed one, because if this one is activated, what is gonna be the function of this contact? Is gonna be open, and vice versa. If I activate this one is gonna be open, right? So let's make that. Here another thing that I am going to recommend you. In this part, guys, if I add this type of contact without a separation, the software in some cases is not going to break anymore the enclave. That's why I am going to recommend you to use an open contact, call it actual or all time on. So this one I actually call it all on, right? And in this variable, guys, I am going to use an start value. That is why I am going to select this option and select the here. The principal value is gonna be true, right? So let's accept and let's accept. This is the way, and this one is actually I am doing this activity in the way to show you once that I start the simulation, the value of this contact is going to become closed because I select this initial value. If I change it manually, this value is going to change. But once that I start the simulation, this value is going to be added to the contact called all on, right? You can call it true or always true, always started, or whatever you want. But this variable has to be added. Why? Because in this way, I am going to separate the enclave between to the difference of the to differentiate or help the program to see when the enclave is broken, right? So here I am going to add a close contact from which state? The no, sorry, global GBL point ST6. And this one is gonna be the close contact, this one. I am going to copy and paste this one into this place, right? Also, I can copy all the stage or a specific contact with the name that I declare. And in this part, I am going to add or copy the ST3, right? So I am blocking this correlation. Is this one is activated? This one cannot be activated. And if no, sorry, it was ST2. Sorry, ST2 and this one is to block if one specific routine is activated, the other one could not be activated, right? Questions? Ok. Es un contacto, ok. Es un contacto que nos va a ayudar a separar cuando tenemos un enclave y se pone junto otro enclave, el sistema en ocasiones no reconoce cuando se rompe el enclave, debido a que pusimos las dos líneas juntas. Y este es porque va a pasar una situación donde aquí ustedes van a tener que usar un enclave. Y si lo juntan, el sistema no lo va a romper, sino que lo va a reconocer como un enclave que ya nunca se va a romper. Entonces se le pone esta opción para separarlo y decir, ok, hay un espacio y estas condiciones rompen tu enclave. ¿Ok? Okay, questions, guys? So, until this point is everything that we're gonna make from the programming part. Questions? So, is it clear what I'm doing? I am calling from the principal routine, the subroutines. Once that the subroutine is finished, I return to the first one. So, now let's make the simulation or the HMI. Let's go to application, add an object, and use the part of the last one, the visualization part. And without checking this option that says active, we're gonna go to the option add. Okay, before we start, guys, I'm gonna ask you to erase these two, this one and this one. Only select them and erase them. Yes, because if not, once that you try to load to the PLC, in some cases it appears a problem. Because it's supposed that it is an HMI that is loaded into a web version. So if you didn't connect the web version, it's gonna send you that mistake. So in this case, to avoid that problem, erase them. Okay? So here we're gonna build an HMI to see the corresponding evolution of the program. So we're gonna select this one that say lamps, switches, and bitmaps. And we're gonna select, let me see, the lamp. I am going to check with left click and move it to the blank space. And let's prove this one. In some cases in my program, this one doesn't work very well, but you have to prove it, right? I'm gonna prove it this one and the other one. The ones that says interrupter. This one, the disadvantage is that when you press it is like enclavado. And I am going to make it smaller, these ones, because as you know, the routine could not move step by step if I don't send the information or the inputs that I need in each step, right? So I need to make manually. So I going to send each information from each step, right? So in this part, there is gonna be the start and stop. How can I recognize there is no, I cannot see the names? So the easy way to add a comment is by going to the tools and selecting the option base and move it the rectangle option. And in this part, there is two ways to add a name. By selecting this option, double click. Sometimes it's not working. And the other one is go to find the option text. And in here, I'm going to place the name that I add as a variable. In this case, it's gonna be VA. And as you can see, it appears. And I can make it this one smaller. Only to play like this reference about what is the bottom purpose. Right? Then I can copy and paste this one. And this one is gonna be the botón de paro. Right? So for the principal routines, how many steps do I have? The start one, the start, the state one, and this one, state 2, state 6, and state 0. This one belongs to the small box subroutine, so I am not going to call it. And the state 6 belong to the extra big box, so I am not going to call it. So the ones that I am going to add is from start, state 1, and state 0. These ones belongs to the principal routine. So I'm gonna go to visualization and add here. This one I can make it smaller. And I am going to copy and paste as many inputs or outputs that I want to share. And of course, add the corresponding name. So this one is gonna be start. The second one is going to be state 1 and state no. Someone is trying to enter to share something. Okay, so I added these three, right? These ones belongs to the principal routine. So how can I recognize them? So I'm gonna select them, move it, and in here I am going to move and copy and paste this one, and I am going to place as a title. This one is gonna be the principal routine, right? And that is the way to show what is the function of each of the sensors and the outputs, right? But as you can see from the principal routine, I am missing some inputs. I added only the VA, the VP, but I am missing the sensor box and the small box and XX box, right? So I'm missing 1, 2, 3 inputs. So I am going to copy these ones, for example, this one, Control C, and place it with the corresponding name that I want to add it. So this one, I am going to select this one. This is apparently the same like lab view. Once that you add something in the frontal panel, you have to connect it to the input that you needed. So in this case, let me return to see what are those inputs: sensor box, small box, and extra big box. So in visualization, this one is gonna be sensor box. This one corresponds to the small box, and this one corresponds to the XX box, right? So as you can see, I add the corresponding input and the name of that specific input, actually. So in this part, well, questions solving this point? No yet? Okay, it's easy, I know. So let's connect the inputs with the corresponding contact and the outputs with the corresponding coil. So I'm gonna right click, no, left click over this button, and this button corresponds to which variable? The button de arranque, or BA. You have to find in the right side of your window the option that says variable, and in here you're gonna make double click and go to the option of the 3 points, right? Let me know when you are in this window. When this window appears, you are in the right way.
¿Cómo le hace para que saliera las propiedades?
Double click here.
No, pero en el botón a dónde le presionamos.
No, only click and go here. Variable. And we have to connect from the application in which is the where did I declare the botón de arranque. In the principal. So I'm gonna go to principal routine and search for that specific variable. So I selected and I place accept, and that's it. That is the way to connect the input from my HMI to the contact. So I am going to move to the second one. This part, again, I search for the variable, search for the BP or botón de paro, and accept. And I have to add these three sensors to the corresponding input.
Es que no me sale acá de este lado.
Right click. Uh, okay. Right click over there. No. Why is not changing? You have to make it para. Mm, you are missing one window. Let me see how we can add manually. And in here, let's select this from variable. This one is gonna be for sensor box, small box, and X box. Variable. This one is from, I can move this part as Excel. And this one is a sensor for sensor box. That is this one. Accept. I move to the next input. And I have to choose the following input, that is the small box. So I select this one and accept. And finally, variable, and this one is for the Xbox. So that means that this one, right? So as you can see, I am searching into the corresponding subroutine, the variable that I have to connect to the input, right? So in the option of lamps, I am going to connect the coils. So I select the lamp, go to variable, and select, for example, this one, I place the name start. So I gonna call it here, the start. I am moving to state 1, again, the variable, state 1. In this case, I call it in the principal routine with the output that I am activating. Accept, and the state 0, that one I declare as a global variable. Sorry. Right? So I actually connect each of the objects that I add here in the HMI, right? So now the activity for you is to, well, I am going to show you. Once that you finish, you're gonna open this software that I think I load to the classroom. If not, I'm gonna load it right now. You're gonna open the gift cam and you're gonna save or explain by adding here notes what is the state or what is the function that you are achieving in each of the stages from your program. So instead of having or showing me all the program of the ladder, the one that you the one thing that I gonna ask you to share is this part. So in this case, for those one who has problems by loading the program to the PLC, you have the option to select here from online and select the option simulation. Once that you select this option, in some programs, it's not going to ask you to add the user and password. It's only going to simulate the program. So I select this one and select the option start the session. And as you can see, I didn't even start the PLC. So with this option, you're gonna be able to run or to simulate the program, right? As you can see, the program didn't ask me to enter a password and in a user. So I start the running part and let's see if I can start the system, and you can see once that I place or press the button BA and BP, what is the function that I have to see? The start, right? What is the next state? I have to go to routine, and what is the sensor that I am waiting for? As you can see, the disadvantages of this part, guys, is that once that you press these buttons, it's like with enclave. That means that you have to press again to do not send the information, right? So in this case, the sensor that I am waiting for is a sensor box. So if I press it, as you can see now, I am moving to the state 1. And if I press this option, and as you can see, I am not sending that information to the principal routine that is here. What is the thing that I am missing? Did I select the small box or the extra big box? Which one do you prefer? The small box. So as you can see, there is no more likes to share. But if I move to the small box routine, and as you can see, this one is activated. So I am missing from the S1. I didn't add those inputs in the HMI, but I show you how to add the inputs and the outputs that I am checking. So I am going to move to the small box subroutine and I start the simulation. Then I move to the big box subroutine, start the simulation to see if it's running with the corresponding inputs and outputs. Is it clear, guys? Questions? Let me see.